Well, hello and welcome. Welcome back to Audio. I'm here again to do another review for you, and it's kind of like doing a part two to a movie called Roadhouse. And yeah, this is kind of a remake, remaster kind of thing of another 80s movie. They've been doing a few of those. I mean, I like the movie back in the 80s. Like, I think it's 1989. I wasn't very old when it came out, but I did watch it after. It's basically, there's a bar. They get Patrick Swayze, the Swayze Express, to work there. He kicks a lot of people in the face. I remember as a kid, there were a couple of like nudie scenes, and I really just when I remember when I watched, I was like, I shouldn't be watching this, but it was pretty good. It didn't really stand out a lot to me, but I mean, we're in 2024 now, 1980 going on 2024. We got Roadhouse, we got Ghostbusters, we got Alien, we got Beetlejuice, we had a He-Man show, so we're getting a lot of the 80s revival here. But yeah, Roadhouse. I'll let you know what I thought of it right now. It's pretty good, so grab yourself a drink and let's head on down to the Roadhouse. So the movie starts off with there's a big fight going on in a bar, and there's some guy taking on all comers, and he's won like 5 or 6 fights in a row. Then there's a lady comes in. She's a bar owner. I think it's from Florida. She owns the Roadhouse, right? And she's looking, I think, for a bouncer. So she's spotting that guy and thinking, yeah, this is the guy. He's going to guard my house. My Roadhouse. So then out of nowhere, Jake Gyllenhaal walks in. He's wearing like a hoodie up and everything like that. And he's like kind of making his way down. And you're like, okay, what's this guy? So he just sits down, and the guy's like taking on all comers for like a big wad of cash. He just sits down, and once he takes back his hood, the guy that's just won 6 fights in a row sees him. He's like, oh no, I'm not fighting that guy. He's like, no, what do you mean? You're going to just forfeit? And he's like, yeah, nope, not fighting him. I'm going. So he just get up and leaves, right? So then Jake Gyllenhaal gets all the money. He's playing Elwood Dalton. They call him Dalton. And he's just kind of like a drifter. He's broke, living in his car. I don't know, like, so then he's out in his car, kind of counting his cash, whatever, and the lady that owns the bar comes over and says, hey, do you need a job? Like, I'll pay you $5,000 a week. I was sent down to get that guy. I mean, but he didn't want to fight you even, and, you seem like you could use the cash. It's a pretty good scam you got going. Show up, people won't fight you, you get the money, and, anyway, she's like, well, just give me your number and whatever. He's like, I don't have a cell phone. So she's like, I love it. She's like, we'll do it like our ancestors did, pen and paper. So she gives him her number, and then I don't know why he won't go, but she says she give him $5,000 a week for 4 weeks. She wants him to come down, take care of her Roadhouse, and I guess train people how to defend it. It sounds like a rough neighborhood. So then anyway, she goes on, and he basically is shown just bumming around, sleeping in a car at a gas station. Cops tell him to move on like a vagrant. I guess he is a vagrant, not like one. So then he drives on, and he just gets on a train track. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to let this train hit me. And he's like, no, this is stupid. I'm going to drive off. But because his car sucks, because he's, broke, he drives like a couple of inches, and the back of his car gets hit, and it just spins around. And then you just see him kind of grab that card, and the next scene, he's on a bus going to the Roadhouse. And that's when the action starts flowing. He gets down there, and he goes to the street. There's like a cool bookstore he goes in when he gets off the bus. It's a very small town. But yeah, he goes in there, and or doesn't go in there, just right outside of there actually is a young girl and her dad working there, and she gives them a book about the town, and like it's free, so he just takes it and goes on, and he heads on over to the Roadhouse, and yeah, he goes on in there and gets a drink, and he's watching, and yeah, you see the owner's looking down, and he goes to order a coffee black. She's like, we don't have that, and he's like, well, what are you having? And she tells him, and she's like, and that's totally different. He's like, that's fine, I'll have that. Then he takes a taste. He's like, oh, it's good. I like it. And then they kind of become friends. I really like that bartender girl. I can't remember the character's name, but she was fun. She offers him a ride home and stuff later. She's really nice. Anyway, there's a lot of bar fights that happen. And let me say, Jake Gyllenhaal must have just lived at the gym for this role. He is jacked. Like, there is like no fat on this guy. Like, and the fights look great. They really do. Like the punches are impactful. The kicks look like they're actually hitting. I read somewhere that they had to tell Conor McGregor to pull his punches. He's in this later, and like, anyways, it's really good. So he gets there, and then a bunch of guys are fighting, and then he's like, there's 4 guys fighting. And he really reminds me of Reacher. He like has nothing, walks around with nothing, is super jacked, and like barely speaks. But when he does speak, it's usually gonna end in violence. So he goes on over, and these guys are causing a ruckus in the bar and beating the place up, and they're beating up one of the guys that works there. Basically, he steps in, and he says, hey guys, like, I know there's 4 of you, let's go outside and talk about this. He pulls a trick, like, oh, your guys' bike's outside? And they're like, yeah. He's like, okay then. So he just walks outside because they didn't want to go outside. Then they come outside and he asks if there's a hospital close or anything like that. He's really polite and nice. And they're like, we're going to beat you up really bad. What do you worry about a hospital? He's like, okay. And they're like, there's one about 25 minutes this way. He's like, okay, good. So anyway, they all attack him at once, and he starts slapping them, and then he beats them all up, and like it's brutal. He breaks one guy's arm, and but he's really nice about it, you know what I mean? And then after the scene's over, he actually gets the boss's car and drives them to the hospital, and they're like talking on the way, and he makes sure they get in and stuff like that. And the nurses are like, oh, they're your friends, and he's like, no, I just broke that guy's arm. There's a lot of good one-liners in this. Like I like the movie a lot. So then the nurse Ellie, she gets introduced. She thinks he's just kind of a bully, beating people up. They kind of have a little interaction, and like she obviously likes him, or at first doesn't, but then she kind of does because he's nice, and he really didn't want to fight those guys. They made it happen. So anyway, he goes on back to the bar, and then he starts training the guys that work there how to take care of the place, how to fight, how to defend, how to throw guys out, and things like that. And everything starts getting better. And it shows a lot of scenes where, he's extremely calm. Like, when fights and things break out, he doesn't jump in until it's time to solve it. But he does a good job teaching the staff how to fight and things like that and take care of it. And it's really good, though. Those guys are pretty mad that he beat up pretty bad. At one point, he has nowhere to live. So he's living in the owner. She owns a boat down by the dock. So he's living in that. He's walking home one night, and one of the guys actually drives after him in a truck when he's crossing the bridge, tries to hit him with the truck, misses him, goes after him again, puts the truck in reverse, smashes into him. He flies off the bridge, and the girl in the car is like, oh my God, this is my truck. What are you doing? He still doesn't die. So then he, gets over to his boat. When he gets on his boat, the guy's there with a shotgun. It's one of the guys he beat up earlier. That guy's still trying to kill him. And earlier on, when he took the house at the boat, one of the guys said, the only problem with the boat is, there is an alligator. It ate my dog, and he's like, oh, okay. So then when he goes and fights this guy, kind of set up and payoff, after he's fighting this guy with the shotgun, he kind of goes over the side of the boat, and he's trying to help him up because, again, he is polite and really nice. He's kind of he does mirror Patrick Swayze like that. Swayze was super polite in that movie too. But anyway, as he's going to pull him up, it's reminding me of Peter Pan, like Captain Hook. The Croc just comes up and he's the guy. And I was like, whoa, it really caught me off guard. I didn't know that was going to happen. And anyway, but Jake feels bad. And then, of course, things escalate because those guys all work for someone. And that guy's, he's not really the big boss. He is, but it's because his dad, who was the big boss, is in jail. So he has to call for help. And this is where you get Conor McGregor. Now, I watched a lot of UFC, and I'm a pretty big Conor McGregor fan. His showmanship was awesome in the UFC. It's on full display here. This guy really wants to be in this movie. You can tell he loves his role. He's smiling the whole time. I don't think there's ever a time he doesn't smile. And it's probably his character as well, but it comes off great. He's over the top in everything he does. His opening scene, you see him, he's coming out of a window, he's stark naked, walking down into a crowd, and a phone rings, and it's literally in his boot, in his sock. He pulls it up, edges it, he's like, how's it going there? Oh yeah, you need me? I'll be there. And he's coming to town, basically. And he goes right to the Roadhouse when he gets there, and from the time, so it's a pretty grounded movie up until this point. That's about to stop. From the time Conor McGregor gets there to the end, we're going full Fast and Furious here. It's great. I love it. So when he shows up, the first thing he does is goes on into the bar, him and a bunch of the guys, and they just start breaking the place up. And he's calling out, Dalton, Dalton. And they're just beating everything up, right? It put me in mind, the whole scene about it reminded me of Knockaround Guys. I don't know if it's one of Vin Diesel's earlier movies where he talks about 500 fights and it's how to be tough. Anyway, Conor calls him out, and Jake Gyllenhaal goes down there and is yeah, what do you want? And Conor's I want to tell you a few things. And, he's one of the first things you learned about, he's I'm crazy, you're crazy too, and we both fight a lot. One of the first things you learn about fighting is never let someone get this close. And he just headbutts him. Just in Knockaround Guys, that's what Vin Diesel does too. He's after 500 fights, the most important thing you learn is BAM! And he just headbutts the guy and starts beating him up. And Conor headbutts him, but Jake doesn't just go down. It's a fight. They're going across the bar. And Conor is this is the part where he shines in the fight scenes. He's doing flying knees, coming in with lefts and rights. He's doing jump kick. It's awesome. And Jake is ripped. He's obviously well trained. The fights are excellently choreographed. You really believe these hits are happening, and they're both bloody and beaten, but Jake just gets overwhelmed. Dalton, like Connor, just a little bit too much for him. So he pretty much decides he's going to leave, and he's on his way, right? And that's it. He's done. He's getting the bus. He's going to leave the Roadhouse and go on his way. The $5,000 a week, I guess, isn't enough. He'd rather go live in his car. So he goes to catch the bus. And on the way out, he notices that the bookstore was burned. The one where he befriended that girl early on. And he's leaving, and he told the owner, like, I have to leave because I'm scared. But you find out now he wasn't scared of them. He was scared of what he would do, because then you kind of get the full story. Like when he was a UFC fighter before, he was fighting a guy that he knew. And in the fight, he killed him. Like he was like ground and pounding him out. And even though the fight was over, he hit him again. And he's like, yeah, that last hit is the one that did him in. So then he decides, yeah, that's it. Now I'm going to get them. And he does. He goes to the bad guy's house. He just nails one guy in the throat, throws him in a pool. There's all kinds of cool fights and action scenes. Like, it's definitely something you're going to want to see. It's like, it's on Prime, so you can watch it. It's in 4K and stuff. It's great, though. The fights are just fantastic. He basically just goes after the whole organization. He's trying to find the boss guy. And on his way up to him, they go to a yacht, because all rich, villains that have yachts. And the cops are all in on it as well. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he has trouble with the cops. That girl that likes him, the hospital girl, her dad is the sheriff, and he's kind of corrupt. So then when they get to the yacht, the corrupt cop is there, and the big villain guy. I forget his name now. He's played by Billy Magnuson, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, he tells him, like, we've captured Ellie and we're going to torture her. And the cop's like, you didn't know we're on a team. They didn't really do that. And Billy Magnuson's like, no, we did. I didn't tell you. But and then even the cop's not happy with them. Then long story short, there's a giant explosion. The whole boat shakes. And, then Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to basically kill the big boss guy. And then as they're running around and they're in the water and they're swimming, explosions are happening. Conor McGregor comes back on a boat, and it's really good. Jake Gyllenhaal is in the water struggling with someone, and basically he turns the guy over, and Conor McGregor tries to run them over, and he runs the other guy over, turns around, comes back, does another loop to get Jake, and the big boss guy, he's in the yacht. He gets the gas gets jammed forward. He goes off a rock into the air, into the land, and just into an exploding yacht. And you're like, wow, he's got to be dead now. I mean, he's got to be. So then Conor McGregor is flying on the boat. Jake Gyllenhaal grabs in, gets in the boat. They have like another big epic fight. And this fight starts here and goes to the end of the movie. So they're fighting on the boat. The boat's flying, and then they end up, of course, right where Billy Magnuson had crashed as well. So they're fighting all through there. Connor kind of gets out of the picture for a few minutes, but he's coming in. He's like just covered in blood. He's a man on a mission. Jake Gyllenhaal looks like he's been through a war. They've been fighting all the time. And as they're fighting, Connor just starts really beating him up. And then they're smashing chairs. He's throwing them through tables and stuff. And then Dalton is down. It looks like he's going to lose the fight type thing. And Connor's like standing over him. The big boss guy, who's still not dead, even after the exploding yacht. Connor's like, man, do you ever shut up? And just like snaps his neck. I just started laughing. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And he's still smiling like the whole time. But then, of course, the old big final fight happens. It's honestly, the whole final fight scene is great. It's worth watching the movie just to watch this insane fight scene. And they're like hitting each other with broken chairs, and it ends up with little nubs of chairs stabbing all over the place. And like, yeah, it was just awesome. I loved it. I like the old one, and I like the new one too a lot. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's a breeze to watch. You know what I mean? It's certainly not going to win an Oscar or anything like that. And I mean, a lot of things just sort of happen out of nowhere, but it's great. I loved it. It's a lot of good entertainment. I finished the movie smiling, and that's a big reason to watch anything. But yeah, I would say recommend. Give the new Roadhouse a watch. You should have a good time. All right, guys. Well, anyone, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you watching this far. And everyone, stay out of trouble. And thanks for watching Audio.